Hello and welcome to today's Hindu newspaper analysis of the Delhi edition from the front page. Okay. High drama in Pakistan as Speaker Deputy resign. Khan vows not to quit. Voting begins in National Assembly. On day of high drama, Pakistan National Assembly Speaker Asad Oisar and Deputy Speaker Qasim Suri resigned on Saturday night with minutes left for the Supreme Court directed deadline to hold a no trust vote against Prime Minister Imran Khan's government. The crucial session of the House began at 10:30 a.m. with Speaker Kaisar, a senior member of Prime Minister Imran Khan's party in chair. Since then, the session was adjourned 4 times for one reason or another. After the Speaker's resignation, the House started the voting on the no confidence motion with Pakistan Muslim League. Nawaz Ayaz Siddique chairing the proceedings. Is not most important from here. Mayawati did not respond to offer tie-up. Is not important. DU confusion persists over entrance test. What is this? Many changes in the pipeline. University says it will benefit student, teachers and question implementations. What is this? Admission to the undergraduate courses in Delhi University this year will be on the basis of the CUCT, also known as Common University Entrance Test. Scores and the first batch of the newly introduced 4-year undergraduate curriculum framework, also known as UGCF, will have options of multiple entries and existing during the course of the program. Even as students remain wary of the admission procedure under the National Education Policy, also known as NEP, Delhi University and its centenary years has decided to do away with the previous admissions policy based on cut-off marks. No need to worry. DU Vice Chancellor Yogesh Singh has said there is no need to worry as CUCT 2022 will be based on the class 12 syllabus and those who studied hard for their board exam will be able to do well. The changes have been made for the benefit of the students. Admission via CUCT will enable equal access to enrollment in various courses. UGCF will provide the flexibility to choose the disciplines and promote in internationalization as the National Education Policy seeks to align the undergraduate curriculum with global standard. The critics are, however, skeptical about the changes to be introduced within such a short time span. Students who suffered anxiety and faced uncertainty during the last 2 years of the pandemic may find challenges to implement the student changes. Democratic Teachers Fund, also known as DTF, has questioned the implementation of UGCF during the academic year 2022 and 2023. If at all the changes are acceptable, the university are left with very little time to prepare a robust curriculum. Online teaching during the pandemic has impacted the learning among the current batches of class 12 students, and it is not fair to heredity impose CUET and UGCF on them. Read a statement issued by the DTTF, Board Exam Relevance. Key to CUCT. Admission to UG program as DU-based common entrance test, also known as CUET, to be conducted in 447 cities in India and 13 cities overseas. समझ गए? भारत के 547 शहरों में और विदेश के 13 शहरों में CUCT का एग्जाम आयोजित करवाया जाएगा. फी ₹650 फॉर जनरल कैटेगरी एप्लीकेशंस. बोर्ड एग्जामिनेशंस मार्क्स will be only for qualifying purpose. Section 1st. Language. It is divided into 2 parts. 13 languages in the first and in 20 in the second. It will be mandatory for the candidate to appear in at least one language for admission to Delhi University. Section 2. It consists of 20 domain-specific topics under two lists B1 and B2. The candidates will have to choose one subject which should be among the ones they studied in class 12th. If the subject is not listed among the 27, then the subject matching closest could be attempted. The student can attempt minimum 3 and maximum 6 subjects. Section 3. It is based on the knowledge, general knowledge, which will be for the admission to select courses such as BA program. The university has asked the students to carefully study the program specific eligibility listed in the information bulletin of its website. Admission to School of Open Learning and Non-Collegiate Women's Education Board will be on merit and not on the CUET scores. So, no need to worry. Punjab Police, Kejriwal misusing Punjab Police BJP. Highest temperature in 72 years in April first half. Delhi recorded a maximum temperature of 42.4 degrees Celsius at Safdarjung Observatory on Saturday. At notches above the season's normal, this is also the highest temperature in 72 years in the first half of the April, according to the Indian Meteorological Department. Weather stations at Ridge, Ayanagar, Mungeswar, Najafgarh, Pitampura and Sports Complex, meanwhile recording maximum temperature of 43.9 degrees Celsius, 43.6 degrees Celsius. IMD has issued an orange alert warning, severe heat wave at many places in Delhi on Saturday too. The maximum temperature in Delhi on Sunday is expected to 42 degrees Celsius. The all-time highest maximum temperature for April is 45.6 degrees Celsius, which was recorded on last April 29, 1941. After 72 years, this is the highest temperature in April. In April, at a point of time. Delhi police hunt down Maoist leader. Absconding for 26 years is not most important. A houseboat from Kerala floats on hope in Sri Lanka. When the sky over Sri Lanka turned pleasant after the decades of civil war, two Keralists reached Colombo with the idea of taking the Kettuballam houseboat, Kerala's tourism mascot. To tourists, the issue nation Sri Lanka can be said to bear a similarity in Kerala in its tropical climate. The houseboat at the Gregory Lake in the hilly state of Navapara, in Sri Lanka. Navapara in Sri Lanka. Pinarayi Stalin called for joint right to protect states' rights. Strategies. Two places in Karnataka witness communal tensions. What are two places? Communal tensions prevailed in two places in Karnataka. At Mulgabal in Kolar district in south and Nuggikeri in Dharwad district in north. On Saturday, wild tensions in Mulgabal was due to the disruption of the Ram Navami procession. In Nuggikeri, it was over non-Hindu vendors being evicted from the temple premises. Surendran terms CPI, anti-Indian, anti-national. BJP leader says Communist Party of India. Days eroded across the country. Workers preparing laddu in Chitru Muddagam at the temple in Telangana on Saturday. Nearly 4 lakh laddus are being prepared in the Dev Sri Ram Navami celebration that falls on Sunday. Okay, North India theatre students learn. A group of young people undergo 1 month free training in the art of Uttara Kannada in Karnataka. Okay, and IAF completes inquiry into accidental missile firing event. Indian Air Force, also known as IAF, has completed an inquiry into the accidental firing of a missile that went on to land inside Pakistani territory on March 9. The report will be submitted to the government after internal review as per procedure according to defense sources. The finding of the court on inquiry have been sent for legal vetting, after which they will be submitted to the government. A defense official said on conditions of anonymity. Legal vetting is one of the several administrative steps in the procedure, which usually takes a few weeks for compulsion, another official said. At least 2 officials said it did not seem to be a technical issue with the missile system and was likely a human error, while saying that the OI will confirm exact nature of the accident. Safety protocol. Okay, no fresh registrations. President bats for meditation as a dispute resolution tool. Kovind flags reluctance among judiciary to adopt meditation. Okay, meditation. Absconding former J&K minister held. Offering freebies is a policy call of a political party, Election Commission of India. Freebies. Okay, panel tells court it does not have powers of designation, deregistration. Offering or distributing freebies either before or after election is a policy decision of a political party. The Election Commission of India has told the Supreme Court. The poll body was replying to petition filed by Advocate General Ashwini Upadhyay that the promise and dissolution of the irrational freebies by political parties amounted to bravery and unduly influencing voters. It vitiated free and fair elections in the country, the petition said, but the Election Commission of India adopted a hand-off approach, saying whether such policies are financially viable or have adverse effect on the economic health of the state is a question that has to be constituted and decided by the voters of the state. The election body said it cannot regulate policies and decisions that may be taken by the winning party when they from the government. Such an action without enabling provisions of law would be an overarch of powers, the Election Commission said in its affidavit. Constitutional makers did not envisage a monolithic government. FAQ पे पहुंचिए लास्ट. A constitutional crisis in Pakistan. Where does the Supreme Court stand on the Imran Khan's government opposition clash? What is the story so far? With his actions over past week, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan and former pace bowler and cricket captain has given the term slog over a new meaning, pulling surprise after surprise in order to stave off what seems like the inevitable. The end of his government, what was meant to be the final hour, the no confidence motion brought by opposition parties on April 3rd, ended up becoming just the first chapter in a week of dramas that began when Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leaders stood up in the National Assembly and asked the Deputy Speaker Mahmood Khan Shuri presiding that day, what did the court rule? The Deputy Speaker compiled and Mr. Khan then tried to ensure that rather than the opposition bringing another no trust motion, he would resign and push through the dissolution of the Pakistani Assembly. With an order from Pakistan, President Arif Alvi to that effect, 4 days later, ruling on an appeal from the combined opposition, the Supreme Court struck down all the actions of April 3rd, calling them unconstitutional and illegal, reinstating Mr. Khan at the National Assembly and ordering them to go through with the trust vote as originally planned. Each side insists in its actions have been decided by the Pakistan Constitution adopted in 1973. What did it say on the folly used by the government? In an 8-page judgment on April 7, the Supreme Court said the Deputy Speaker decision on dismiss the no trust motion, Mr. Khan's move to seek dissolution of the National Assembly without seeking a vote, President Arif Alvi's decision to dissolve the Assembly, appoint a caretaker Prime Minister of Mr. Khan's choice and order fresh elections were all contrary to the Constitution and no legal effect, and set them aside. It added that any order by the Prime Minister and the President shall be subject to the order of this court, establishing its supremacy over all other institutions, and in an unusual outcome, made the Prime Minister, who had willingly resigned from office, the Prime Minister against the Assembly that had been disbanded, convened to vote on the no trust motion. The Supreme Court also consulted with the Election Commission, which made it clear it would not hold elections for another 6 months. While under the Constitution, a caretaker Prime Minister who oversees elections cannot be in office for more than 3 months. Legal experts said the Supreme Court dispensed with the constitutional term doctrine of necessity, which the PTI government had used to explain its actions. What is the doctrine of necessity? The doctrine of necessity, proposed by the constitutional scholars in France and UK, validates an action which is otherwise not lawful but is made lawful by the necessity, and has often been used through Pakistan's democratic history. It was the first used in 1954, after then the Governor General of Pakistan. Ghulam Muhammad dismissed the Constituent Assembly, and an act that was upheld by the Supreme Court a year later. However, after its regular abuse and misuse in Pakistan to validate unconstitutional acts, about 100 scholars and legal experts wrote a Pakistan Chief Justice Umar Ata Bandalil, on April 6, a day before the verdict, appealing that the doctrine must be buried. It is the first time the Supreme Court has been asked to adjudicate such a case. The Supreme Court of Pakistan has often been asked to intervene in cases of constitutional friction, particularly given that the all-powerful military establishment has also sought its backing for summary dismissal of government and coups in the past. Both in 1977, in 1999 and 2000, the Pakistani Supreme Court upheld the military coups by General Ziaul Haq against Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and General Parvez Musharraf against PM Nawaz Sharif respectively, even though it had held in favor of Mr. Sharif when he was dismissed by the civilian President Ghulam Ishaq Khan in 1993. At times it was the Supreme Court that helped install a regime like General Musharraf and was also instrumental in its removal, as Chief Justice Iftikhar Ahmed Chaudhary did in 2008. In another case involving Mr. Sharif, whose brother Shehbaz Sharif is the opposition candidate for PM now, the Supreme Court disqualified Nawaz Sharif in 2017 from holding public office over the Panama Papers case, forcing Mr. Sharif to step down in 2012. The Supreme Court disqualified Panama Papers PP Prime Minister Yusuf Raja Gilani over a contempt case, given that no Pakistani Prime Minister has completed the full 5-year term of an elected assembly. The Supreme Court has had a say in the practically even every PM tenure. On many occasions, including the present, the Supreme Court has been accused of attempting a judicial coup. What happened next? Okay, it is clear that Imran Khan's current tenure as Prime Minister is in the last few balls of the last over, a term he invokes to say he will keep fighting till the end. 40 years ago, in what was described as his finest work, Khan stepped down as Pakistan cricket captain after delivering the country's first World Cup team, accused now of being an constitution. Has Mullah Periyar Dam panel been changed? What are the Supreme Court's order to Tamil Nadu and Kerala on the supervisory committee? On April 8, the Supreme Court ordered the reconstitution of the Mullah Periyar Dam Supervisory Committee, which will include one technical expert, each from Tamil Nadu and Kerala, the two states involved in the dispute concerning safety of the dam. You know always from here, Mullah Periyar Dam disputed between the two states, that is Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Kerala and Tamil Nadu, with those of the National Dam Safety Authority, also known as NDSA, a body envisaged under the Dam Safety Act 2021. What is the dispute? Located in Idukki district of Kerala, the 126-year-old Mullah Periyar Dam is owned, operated and maintained by Tamil Nadu for several purposes, including irrigation, drinking water supply and hydropower generation. In late 1979, after the eruption of the controversy over the structural stability of the dam, it was decided at the tripartite meeting that the water level be lowered to 136 feet against the full reservoir level of 152 feet, so that Tamil Nadu could take up strengthening measures. In view of execution of a large proportion of the measures, the Supreme Court in 2006 and 2014 held that the water level be set to 142 feet, up to which Tamil Nadu stored water even last year. The court's judgment of 2014 also provided for the formation of the supervisory committee and the compulsion of the remaining work by the Tamil Nadu. But there has been no end to litigation over the dam, with Kerala witnessing landslides in recent years. Though there had been no reports of landslides in the vicinity of the dam site, the events in the other parts of the state led to renewed campaign against the dam. The Kerala government proposed that the existing dam to be decommissioned and a fresh one be built, the opposition of which are not completely acceptable to Tamil Nadu, which want to complete the remaining strengthening work and restore the level to 152 feet. Why was the Dam Safety Act framed? How does it affect Mullah Periyar? The central government had mooted a bill on dam safety on account of the absence of proper dam safety institutional framework. The Dam Safety Act 2021, which came into force last December, deals with the subject of surveillance, inspection, operation and maintenance of stipulated dams across the country, all of which hold relevance to the Mullah Periyar Dam. Broadly, the law which hold dam owners responsible for the construction, operation, maintenance and supervision of dam has designed two sets of bodies, one at the level of the union government and another at the level of states. The National Committee on Dam Safety, NCDS, would devise dam safety policies and recommended necessary regulations, while the NDSA would implement policies and address unresolved issues between states, apart from being the regulatory body. At the other level, State Dam Safety Organization and State Committee on Dam Safety have been envisaged. There is one more function attached to the NDSA. Why this? The NDSA would assume the role of a State Dam Safety Organization for a dam located in one state and owned operated by another. This is why Mulla Periyar comes under the law's preview. What the Supreme Court ruled? Okay, what the Supreme Court ruled? Apart from vesting the supervisory committee with the powers and functions of the NDSA, the court has empowered it to decide on all outstanding matters related to the safety of the dam and conduct a fresh review of its safety. For any act of failure, appropriate action will be taken against the persons concerned, not only for having violated the directions of the court, but also under the Act. Okay. Which talks of 1 year imprisonment or fine or both, or refusal comply with directions of bodies for under the law. As required by the Supreme Court in its latest order, the two states are expected to nominate within 2 weeks are representative each to the supervisory committee, in addition to 1 nominee each. Okay. Is it difficult to diagnose the Z variant? Who is the competent authority in India to interpret genome data from the newer strains of the coronavirus? What is the story so far? In a field plagued by rapid development, Tuesday brought more drama. Brimu Nabai Municipal Corporation declared that it elected the country's first recombinant variant SARS-CoV-2, a claim that was not long after contested by the Union Health Ministry. Okay, what are the implications of this report for India? Code red. What are the major takeaways from the latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report? What is the story so far? In its latest assessment report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has laid out several scenarios on the steps that ought to be taken to keep temperature below 2 degrees centigrade. It warned that even temporarily exceeding the warming level of 1.5 degrees centigrade over the next 2 decades would mean additional severe impact, irreversible. How is the report prepared? What are the key messages? The report's warning on coal plants is relevant to India. All coal plants without technology to capture and store carbon will need to be shuttered by 2050 to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade, it says. Okay, what are the implications of this report for India? Okay, this is profile, a pivotal moment for China's next decade. The Liberal Democrat, okay, Hungary's PM chose to tie Putin's defeat a united opposition in polls. Okay, shattering glass ceilings. Sri Lanka to seek $3 billion to save office of crisis Shabri. So these are the important articles from today's Hindu newspaper analysis. So thanks for watching.